Okay, again, we're gonna have to make a table for these, XY table. Okay, I do this all the time just so I get an idea. Now I'm choosing the numbers. There's nothing that tells me what numbers I have to use. I'm choosing numbers going across the graph so I get an idea what it looks like all the way across. So if I take, start at the very left, -6, and I plug a -6 in here, the absolute value cuts off the negative. So now I have +6. 6 divided by 2 and then times a negative, or you could also say 6 divided by -2 is -3. So at -6 is -3. I try -4. -4, if I put -4 in there, it cuts off the negative, so it's +4. And then 4 divided by -2 is -2. Okay. If I go with 2 or -2, right? -2, that absolute value makes it a +2, and then 2 divided by -2 is -1. So you can see the slope that's going here, and you know we want to figure out when it gets to the vertex and turns around. So if I put a 0 in there, oh, I'm sorry, I need to be writing my numbers. -2, -1. I was graphing them but not writing them. So 0 times all of that, it doesn't matter, it's still 0. Then if I try 2, 2 is still +2, right, after the absolute value, and then I'm going to multiply it by -1/2, which is the same as dividing by -2. But that gives me a -1. Notice, once I see that it starts going back down, now I know it's going to be the same. It's going up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. Then it starts going down. Down 1, right 2. So I know it'll continue with that same pattern, and it'll just keep going because it's always going to be a V shape. So here's my V shape. On domain, I'm looking, how far is it going to the left? Well, it goes all the way over here to -infinity. And how far is it going right? It has an arrow, so it's going to +infinity. So that's all real numbers, right? We think we talked about it. No matter which way the V is going, it's going to have an arrow left, an arrow right, which means domain would always be all real numbers. Now the range, I start down here at the bottom. And I always, in my head, I'm starting at -infinity. Does it get to -infinity? Well, there's an arrow going down. So yes, it starts at -infinity. And how high does it go? It goes all the way up and stops right here at y equals 0. And there's a point there, so it's included. And put a parentheses there. For this one, the intersections or the intercepts are 0, 0. That's the y-intercept and the x-intercept. I'll write it twice, but you don't really have to do that. Okay, and then the transformations. What happened here? What does this look like compared to the original V? And you know the original V looked like this. So I'll kind of see if I can draw it without making it dark. So it flipped and the arrows are now pointing down. So that's a vertical flip. And it also got a little bit flatter. It got squashed down a little bit because this would start here and ended up in the corner, and now it started here and ended up halfway. So it is vertically shrunk, or vertical shrink, right? Why is that not a horizontal stretch? Why is it not a stretch this way instead of a shrink this way? Well, that's because the number is on the outside. Outside has to be vertical. Okay, we look at number 5. I'll go a little faster now. We got x, y, putting in the numbers. -6, let's go -3, 0, 3, 6. So -6 becomes +6. Multiply by 2 is 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. So right here it's -6, +6. If I put a 3 in there, -3 is +3. right? Absolute value. And then times 2 is 6, minus 6 is 0. And then 0, put a 0 in there. So 0 times that is all 0, minus 6 is negative 6. Okay, 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. And then 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. So there's my V shape. It's a really tall and skinny V shape, right? Even though it starts up here in the same corner that the original started in, they've now pulled the vertex all the way down here. Okay? So it's done two things. And the numbers on the outside. So I have to say vertical, stretch, and it also moved down because the vertex, notice here the vertex, you can shrink or stretch, but the vertex is still at the origin. Now the vertex moved down here. So it came down 6. Down 6. The domain, again, arrow left, arrow right is all real numbers. And the range, where does this start? If I start on the bottom, I start coming up from negative infinity. Right here at negative 6 it starts. And it goes all the way up to infinity. Now the intersections, or the intercepts. Intercepts here, here, and here. So at negative 3, 0 is an x-intercept. At 3, 0 is an x-intercept. And then 0, negative 6 is the y-intercept. Okay. Last one of these. Now we'll start thinking like we should be seeing what's going on. Right here I'm going to have a vertical flip. It's a negative on the outside. Vertical flip. Right? The 1/2 on the outside is going to be a vertical something. But if I'm multiplying by 1/2, it's going to get shorter. So that's a vertical shrink. Okay, this negative 2 on the inside, or subtracting 2. Subtracting moves to the right. If it's on the inside, it's horizontal, so it's left or right, but subtracting moves to the right. So that's right 2. And subtracting on the outside is up or down, but subtracting would be down. So if I'm thinking right now, what is my V shape going to look like? Instead of this V shape, it's going to be pointing down. It's going to get shorter. And it's going to move to the right 2, down 3. I already know mine should start here and have a V shape there. But I can check that. Do a table real quick. X, Y. Start at 2. If I put 2 in there, 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 times this is 0. And then minus 3 is negative 3. So there you go. 2, negative 3. Now I'll do 1 point inside and 1 point outside of that V. Or what I think is the vertex, just to make sure. So if I put 0 in there, that's a negative 2, but the absolute value makes it positive. So positive 2 times negative 1/2 becomes negative 1. And then minus 3 is negative 4. Okay, and then try a number that's further out here, like 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 times negative 1/2 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. So notice the slope is still the same. It's over 2 down 1, over 2 down 1, over 2 down 1, and then over 2 down 1, over 2 down 1. So I saw that that pattern was the same. I can check all the points if I want, but I already saw what the pattern was, and I put the points. All right, once I do that, my domain, again, all real numbers because it's going left and right. The range, if I start on the bottom, it does reach the negative infinity because it's pointing down. So all of the ones pointing down start at negative infinity, and they stop at the vertex. So I go all the way up here, it stops at -3. All right. This one only has a y-intercept. It never crosses the x-axis. So the y-intercept is 0, -4.